come back into open session at 7:35. We'll go to agenda item, guess what, number 5. Approval of minutes of the August 8th regular council meeting and the August 16th special emergency council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Roy Ulrich and a second by Mr. Tucker. I don't want to say Mr. Ulrich and Mr. Tucker. Okay, any changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, make sure we speak up, those microphones are close, right? Agenda item number 6, report on financial statements.
Mayor, Council, if I could bring your attention to pages 18 to 28 of the council packet. On page 18, I did renew 3 CDs there at Prosperity Bank. We did them for 4 months. Interest rates are starting to slide down. So we did them for 4 months, kind of see how things are at the end of the year. I'd like to look through the other reports. If you have any questions about accounts payable or anything, I'll be glad to answer those.
All right, Dave, anything you want to point out, or are you good?
No, I think everything's pretty straightforward.
Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 7, approval of accounts payable and the transfer of funds.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Roberts and a second from Councilman Tucker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Move to agenda item number 8, discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, 9? I started reading number 9. Discussion and approval of closing the 100th block of East Post Office Street for Chamber Rock the Block schedule for September 27th at 4:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Tiffany, do you want to come up? Okay, if you'll walk to the podium, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
All right, good evening. I am Tiffany Hogarty. I'm the new executive director for the chamber here. So I'd like to request the 100th block of East Post Office Street to wrap around a little bit. I provided a map on Mechanic Street to that alleyway by Hill Bank to be closed for our new event, Rock the Block. So we're bringing in a big band, lots of vendors, food, drinks. I've spoke with all the businesses downtown, all the retailers staying open for it. The idea is to attract people downtown and keep them there. The longer they're there, the more money they're going to spend, and help, hopefully in the end, attract more businesses downtown and do more events like this. It's set to be a really big event, so I met with the chief, and he recommended we hire 2 security, so we will have 2 security on staff also, so I can answer any questions that y'all have.
So just Mechanic Street this way, not the other way?
Not, yeah, so it'll be from the corner of MG, that corner, to the alley, not past, yep.
Make a motion for approving the closing of the 100th block of East Post Office Street for Chamber Rock the Block, scheduled on the 27th from 4:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Tucker and a second from Councilman Scardino. It's open for any additional discussion. Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Look forward to being there. Tiffany, just a quick question.
Yeah,
You have how many spots available?
for vendors,
Yes.
we have 40 vendors
And how
coming,
many are filled?
all of them. We have a waiting list.
Just that one.
So,
Awesome.
Great job.
That's
Very
great.
Great job.
thank you.
Agenda item number 10, discussion and action to authorize the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with Weimer ISD to provide school resource officer. Thought the chief is already up.
Yeah, it might take a few minutes for that thing to warm up. Maybe we can shut down the lights a little bit.
Lord, get on this there.
All right. Second to get situated.
Get it back on good.
Musical chairs.
Everybody situated the way they want to be? So, greetings again. Tonight, I have the opportunity to share some things with you and make a presentation on something we've been working behind the scenes on for quite some time. This isn't something that we just did knee-jerk. We've probably spent now, ever since May, probably, been working on it. And I wanted to present it sooner, but the city manager kind of was like, cool your jets, it needs to be with everything else. So tonight I get an opportunity to present it to you, and it's related to the school resource program at BISD. I mean, at Weimer ISD, forgive me. A little bit about the current situation. Right now, whether you're familiar with it or not, the school has the Guardians and the School Marshal program. Don't know if you know much about what that is, so I thought I would take a few minutes to just discuss it. The School Guardians came out around 2007, and that was after a massacre at the Amish school in Pennsylvania. Right? They said, well, we're going to have Guardian program. What the Guardians were in the very beginning was it was just volunteers, educators, who would volunteer to take action should something bad happen. That's how it originated back in 2007. Around 2013, if you remember what happened in 2012, was when you had the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting. In 2013 is when lawmakers, you had the school marshal program, I think 2009, I think is, forgive me for not having that, I probably have it on my notes. I think 2009 is when the school marshal program rolled out. But in 2013, lawmakers increased the training requirements. And they didn't have school marshals there, but I know that I believe the superintendent is a school marshal, and I think he may have brought, Councilman, if you're familiar, go ahead and let me know, but I know that the superintendent. Now, I have this down to 10 minutes, but the train is going to cause it to be long. No, but the school marshal, or the superintendent's a school marshal, and I think there are plans to retire Chief Bill Livingston. I think he's going to become one. But the difference between the Guardians and the Marshals is you have 16 hours required training for the Guardians. You have 80 hours of training required for the school Marshals. The school Marshals are also registered with TCOR, which is Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. That's the same governing body, state, basically, that I have my commission, that your law enforcement officers have commissions. And they work with the school board, they have to submit application to TCOL along with the school board gives different authorizations and things like that. They submit it, basically an application, and then TCOL gives them a check and says it's okay. September 1, 2023, House Bill 3 came out, and that is after Uvalde. What that was is Prior to that, all those other things, guardians and marshals were volunteer. They were, some schools could have them, some schools couldn't, or wouldn't. But in September 1, 2023, when House Bill 3 came out, all schools were required to have armed security on campus. A lot of people took that as police officers. Well, police officers cost money, right? School districts don't have a whole lot of money. They couldn't afford it. So what they did is they beefed up the school guardians where they now allow them to carry. Before, in the beginning, they weren't able to carry. The marshals could, but the guardians couldn't. So a way to help create a safer environment, you set the ease, you remember what happened and things of that nature. So that's kind of the origin. Right now, you have the guardians and you have some marshals. The only problem with it is they have limited powers. They're not peace officers. Even though marshals are, they're registered with TCO, they're not police officers. The training that I went through 28 years ago was 640 hours. They only have to go through 8. I don't know what it is now. I think it's over 700 that's required now to be a police officer. They can only act to prevent an active shooter or, in the marshal's case, the serious bodily injury. They're not law enforcement officer, and they are allowed to carry concealed or in a lockbox on campus. That's according to the education code. So that's what you currently have. Well, everyone knows that early spring, new superintendent, guess what? New direction, right? He reached out to me and asked me, Chief, how do you feel about SROs? And I said, I love them. You know, back in 2004 to 2008, I was the SRO at Memorial High School in Victoria. I had 2,700 students, 165 teachers, at a 19-acre campus with 9 buildings. It was like my own little city. And I was the only cop that was there, but I loved it. And I'll get into some of the other things about it, but I have experience with it. And so when he asked me about it, I said, I would love to have SROs there. I said, but it's going to have to, I would recommend that we have 2 here. And he doesn't have the money to do 2, but he said, we'll do 1, and maybe we can work the first couple years as a, doing both, the guardians and an SRO. And I said, well, I'll talk to the city manager and we'll see what, I don't like that, but I would much rather have 1, if not any. Because I don't like that we don't have a police officer on campus every day. I don't think that creates the safest. I'm thankful for the people that have volunteered to step up and do those things, but it will be better if the officer is there on campus all the time. It bridges the gap between youth and law enforcement. My beautiful wife is here tonight in support of me, and having been an SRO, I remember we were at HEB one time and doing some shopping, and this guy came up. He was all tatted up. He had some piercings and things like that, but he had a toddler in the cart that he was pushing, and 2 of them were straggling along. And as we got closer, he was looking at me, and I thought, okay. And he goes, Officer Jameson. And I said, yes, sir. He said, I don't know if you remember me. And he said his name, and of course, I remember. He said, you arrested me when I was at Memorial. He said, and I look back, and now I've changed. Now I have a great job. I have a beautiful wife, and you see these kids, and it's largely because of the impact that you had on me when you were at Memorial. That's the type of impact officers can have there, and we'll get into the benefits of that later. But they serve as a role model for students. Obviously, they help to create a safer educational environment, and that's all that matters, right? Is that we provide a safe environment for our kids that are in school and can work in cooperation with the existing security teams. Did I jump forward too? Nope, sure did not. So what's the benefit of the city? Why would we even go down this road? Why would we even entertain the idea of having an SRO? Unlike, if Weimar Police Department or Weimar School wanted to go out and have their own police department, they could certainly do that. But they don't have the money to do it, and why would I even be interested in wanting to do it? It does give the city some benefits. Shared with you earlier that would like to get to the point where we have additional officers on the street. Well, guess what? In the summertime, the SROs would work at the campus through school hours, but on the holidays and in summertime, because they're a city employee, not under contract with the school, they don't get the summers off. They come back to work. And when I was in SRO, I went to investigations and worked cases and helped out, and stuff like that, during the non-school time. So that's a benefit to the city. It reduces response to school. We don't respond to the school a whole lot, but we do go to the school. And it would reduce that. The SRO serves as a liaison with the school district, because he would work in partnership with the existing school team, but he would also do different things with the school. I know that the superintendent, he's not here, but he had expressed to me that his vision for an SRO would be active in the classroom and to do instruction and stuff like that, which is, I'm in full support of that. The more that we can get in front of the students in a non-law enforcement role, yes, we'll be up in front of them with a badge and a gun, but we're talking to them, about different things. I'm excited about doing that. The impact on the students can be positive. I already shared that with you. And then it establishes that environment, not only for the students, but also for the teachers. So how do we get there? SRO programs are done by interlocal agreement, or an MOU. In my experience, and yes, I was an SRO, but I also oversaw the SRO program. I've written these MOUs, I've written these interlocal agreements in the past, so I'm very familiar with how you do it. Very popular way of doing it is you have an interlocal agreement where the school district is responsible for 80% of the salary. 80%. That includes salary and benefits, the whole deal, right? And then the school, or the city is only responsible for 20%. So I'm sure that you have questions as to what does that mean, right? So I have some numbers. This is a new position. It would not be one of our existing officers. We would hire an additional officer, so our strength would be added. But it's my recommendation that we have 3 or more years, right? That you want to have a seasoned officer that has some experience, that he knows how to be a police officer. So when I look at that salary range that I'm going to give you, it is really from a 3-year officer to maybe a 10, 12-year officer, okay? So keep that in mind, it's a range. And until we're able to hire that person, I don't really know what that salary is going to be. But to give you the range, the total benefits, everything, retirement, all that stuff, is on the low end is $79,000 and on the high end is $86,000. Now remember, it's an 80-20, so the school is going to pay 80%. So what is 80% of those? The school would be responsible for $63,000 a year to $69,000. What's the 20%? Because I'm sure that's what you're concerned about. The 20%, it would only cost us $15,000 to $17,500 a year to add another employee. There are some additional costs that the city would have to incur. One of those is uniform. I've already, in the budget that I presented to the city manager, have already made room to purchase additional uniforms. We would be able to cover that. No extra money would have to be done. It has their equipment. There are some things that we would probably need to do as far as, I think I have enough for now to get by with the radio. But I think as part of the budget, we're talking about replacing the radios, should you choose to approve it, which that'll be taken care of. And then the other piece of it is the vehicle. And I mentioned earlier in the report, someone asked about the Caprice. I think we were talking about that. That vehicle is, although it's not really ideal for patrol every day of the week type thing, is more than suitable for transportation to and from the school and to sit in the parking lot as a deterrent. It has a cage, it has a radio, it has emergency lighting. Within the last 2 or 3 years, you invested some $9,000 and put a new engine in it. We just had to invest another $2,500, I think, in it just this week because the wheel is about to fall off. But it's ready. I mean, it's not patrol ready. I have to reassure you of that. It is not, but it certainly for the time being could serve. So we already have that vehicle as well. Staff recommends approving this item. It's something that I think that we need to do. It's part of our plan going forward. I think it's in the best interest of Weimar. And I'm seeking a motion that you authorize the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with Weimar ISD to provide a school resource officer. And I will answer any questions that you might have.
And that's just these campuses and not St. Marcus.
That's correct. It's with the public school. Yes, sir.
Would you open this up to existing officers that you have on staff? If they wanted to fulfill this position, would you give them the opportunity for that?
I've already talked to them about it. None of them really want to do it. The officers, the more senior officers that are serving as corporals and things of that, you know, the two.
Yes, sir.
They're more interested in working patrol. The two remaining officers that you sponsored and sent to the academy and stuff that started last year,
Yes, sir.
they're still learning how to be an officer and they
Correct.
wouldn't qualify, because remember it was 3 years.
Correct.
But also neither one of them, they're excited about what they're doing.
No,
And
perfect.
they don't really want to do it.
No, thank you. Just checking on that.
Yes, sir.
For the equipment, what, if you had to guess, what would be that cost?
Yeah, so if we were to buy a radio, I have a radio right now, but the radio runs you about $7,500. The body cam's about $300 to $400. There is some additional licensing for RMS, but those are minimal. Those are like, I think, $150 a year for an additional license. I totaled it up and I rounded it. It's less than $10,000 one-time fee. So it would cost us probably, if you chose to do it, and we hired an officer with just 3 years' experience, it would, I want to say that it was roughly the first time, one-time charge, the first year would be about $25,000. But after that, it would drop back to the 15 to 17.5.
The summer and holidays, do we have a need for another officer on the street?
I think so during the day, personally. We also have a backlog of cases. We also have some issues with the evidence room that we're still working through. So having extra personnel that we could assign those duties would be very helpful.
That's also a time when people take vacations and stuff, so it'd help cover those gaps.
Now, there are trainings that, when you work in the school, you have to have a different level of training, and they have to keep that up, just like we have to go through certain trainings. So, I mean, they're gonna be going to some trainings and stuff like that, but they're not, what do you get off these on the 90 days or whatever it is, 65
never
days
got in.
or whatever, it's not gonna be that entire
It
summer.
ain't
So
much.
there will be benefit. Plus on the holidays, if we have, should we get, God forbid, should we get into some type of a situation, and we needed added personnel, they would do it. So, we would have another officer there.
And our budget would support that, Richard?
Yes, sir. We anticipated this, so we reserved money for it. We didn't actually allocate it or earmark it, but we did reserve and anticipating that this being approved by council to support that decision, if that was council's decision to move forward.
The district is clear that the 70% commitment is annual.
Yes, and he presented it, that was kind of one of the delays, is he didn't present it to the school board, I think until the August meeting, if I'm not mistaken, because we weren't gonna move forward unless they did, right? So, and he presented the 80-20, of course, we don't have the raw numbers.
Right.
You know, so, and the MOU is already drafted, Bo, city attorney, has already reviewed it. It's really, once you guys approve it, the city manager can begin to finalize the, you know, that piece of it. But the language and the requirements and the things like that have already, at least a draft of it has already been done.
Any speculation as to turnaround time and getting boots on the ground? Any idea?
Well, I may have been overly optimistic, but I told the superintendent that I'm very confident that, well, I told him originally, don't wait till August, because to have somebody ready by the time you go to school start, that's not gonna happen. Well, it came in August, so now I'm trying to, and I shared with the city manager, I wanted to do this in September, because, and I'm pretty confident that if we can't get them by the first of the year, maybe. The problem is that school started. So anyone that likes being an SRO is probably already working as an SRO somewhere else.
Maybe January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. You know, I'm always the glass is half full guy, you know what I mean? But I think that we have a good thing going on, and I've already heard that some people want to come to Weimer. Whether they want to be an SRO or not, I don't know. I haven't had that conversation with them, because the job isn't out, it isn't cut. It takes a special person to do it with the passion necessary to be effective.
So, two questions on that. So the vehicle, there's gonna be a day when that end of life is coming for that car. So what would that purchase in the future look like? I mean, would that be a $100,000 Tahoe? And why, I mean, should we maybe be looking at passing 80% of everything through instead of just the salary and benefits?
I don't know that that would be something that the school would be willing to do.
It'd have to go back to the school.
Yeah, it would have to go back to the school board for that. I think that there's a plan. That vehicle was to be replaced. As it is, we were taking it offline. It was in the enterprise deal that was originally presented. I know that we've backed off of that for now, but I mean, that car was originally going to be replaced anyhow. It's just going to be given to them, but it would just fall back. It's still going to remain, even though the SRO is using it, still remains city-owned. And when we want to put it back into the, you know, to that rotation, should we get to that maintenance agreement, whether it's, you know, with Enterprise or some other company that participates, it would be just put back into that. So, and I would go out on a limb to say that we wouldn't be putting a new vehicle there. We
Yeah.
would probably be,
The fleet would increase by one, but it's increasing by the vehicle that we were gonna get rid of.
Yeah, could you almost, instead of trading in the vehicle that you're gonna get rid of that's, or from patrolling, move that into that position? 'Cause it's not ready
We
to
could,
use.
yeah, we could, and we would just change up that replacement model, and the Otis vehicle would slide over to there for a year or two or whatever that ended up looking like.
That sound reasonable.
Mm.
Is this Caprice the same car that we couldn't keep running or get it started?
You had to
Seemed
open
like
the
I
hood or
remember the
something.
story
Yes, sir.
about the Caprice.
yes, sir.
Open the trunk.
We ever-
You gotta open the trunk
We
down.
ever figured that
Yeah, I
out?
just did the other day. The dealership brought it and dropped it off, and I kinda, it was almost like reliving a nightmare. I had to get in it and, you know, open the trunk and do that, cause I did it for so long there before I got a vehicle, and yeah, I pulled it in the back and parked it, you know, and got out and unscrewed
Kyle
it so
has
to
some
save
kind
the
of
battery.
fix for that or something.
Yeah, I think we could get that
I
fixed.
think he
Hey.
knows something about that.
That'd be all right.
Get that fixed real quick.
I've only been told that they've tried for quite a few times. You know, Don wasn't able to figure it out.
Well, that's
I'll
bad
give
news
you the
right
idea.
there.
I know exactly what needs to go on that car.
All right.
Okay.
But, I think it'd be a great thing for the Weimar ISD. And so, I will make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into the interlocal agreement, Weimar ISD, to provide the school resource officer for them to be responsible for 80% of the salary, and we would be responsible for 20% of the salary plus uniform, equipment, and vehicle.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. It's open for additional discussion. We do have someone that has signed up to speak on
I
it.
just have one quick question, Chief.
Okay, but
It's
unfortunately, if you're gonna speak, Todd, you have to come up and introduce yourself. Okay. I know, but it's.
You have to come up.
yeah.
he'll share the
It's just
podium
one
with you.
simple question, and he may have already explained it, I don't know. Are we paying 80% of the salary, or are we paying or is the school paying 80% of the salary and the benefits? Because benefits and insurance and everything else takes it on up there. You're absolutely right. If it's an 80-20 split, I'm all for it, but as long as the 80% and the 20% covers not just salary, but salary and benefits. Yes, sir, I appreciate that. I did cover that. You might not have got it. I talked about, there are benefits, the retirement, all that stuff is on top of their annual salary. Their annual salary may be $55,000 a year. The bottom end is the range of 55 to 62. That's their annual salary. But if you remember, the cost, the actual cost, was 78 to 83. And those numbers I did share. That was all.
So those numbers are in there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as long as that's in there, I missed it, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Because I'm all for a school resource officer, I think it's a great idea, as long as the school district's paying their part.
Yes, sir.
I just didn't want us to be paying salary and then, or the school district just paying salary and then the city paying all the benefits. So that's all.
Appreciate it.
I missed it.
Confirm, what does the contract date start in?
I'm sorry?
When does the contract date start?
That is,
It's yet to be determined.
yeah, this is just to authorize him to further down the road.
For the interlocal agreement.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll go for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, agenda item number 11 is public hearing on proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. And I have 8:10 that we will go into public hearing for those.
Mayor, Council, I'm pleased to submit to you the fiscal year FY 2025 budget. Fiscal year begins on October 1, 2024, and will close on September 30, 2025. The FY 25 budget is the planning document that defines the financial resources and service levels which will guide city staff in executing projects and services over the next year. As with any good plan, priorities may change and economic factors may impact the forecast. The budget is intended and designed to be adaptable to meet the environmental changes. Furthermore, the budget is designed to help ensure an ongoing balance of resources to meet normal operating demands. The tax rate is determined by the tax code section 26.04C, the worksheet form 50-856. The tax rates are expressed in dollars per $100 of taxable value calculated. The no new revenue tax rate enables the public to evaluate the relationship between taxes for the prior year and for the current year based on a tax rate that would produce the same amount of taxes, the no new taxes, if applied to the same properties that are taxed in both years. When appraisal values increase, the no new revenue tax rate should decrease. The voter approval tax rate is the highest tax rate that the city may adopt without holding an election to seek voter approval of the rate. The voter approval tax rate is split into two separate rates. The first one is the maintenance and operations tax rate, the M&O. This portion is the tax rate that is needed to raise the same amount of taxes that the city levied in the prior year, plus the applicable percentage allowed by law. This rate accounts for such things as salaries, utilities, and the day-to-day operations. The second part is the interest and sinking. The interest and sinking tax rate is the portion that provides for the debt service necessary to pay the city's debt payments in the coming year. This rate accounts for principal and interest on bonds and other debt secured by property tax revenue. As we continue an overall assessment of the city's operations, the coming months will focus on several areas: system assessments, infrastructure assessments, efficiencies and effectiveness, technology improvements, road failures, fleet equipment, building services, strategic plan update, performance measures, succession planning, backups, and redundancies. The proposed budget supports the FY25 focal points. The FY25 focus is, since assuming the city manager role in March of 2024, I began assessing our systems throughout the entire organization. While there is still assessment work to do, an undertaking has already begun and will continue into the FY25 budget cycle. Maintaining our infrastructure is essential in gaining a deeper understanding of our water system. Wastewater system, electrical system, roadways are vital. The FY25 budget includes funding engineer studies to conduct complete assessment of these systems. Taking this upcoming year to collect this information will be important as we begin developing a capital improvement plan for the FY26. In addition, the assessment revealed weaknesses in our IT systems and cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We took immediate action to resolve some of these concerns and included council approving hiring VC3 as our new IT company. We have been working to implement this transition. However, IT improvements will be a multi-year phase-in. FY25 includes funding the improvement of our main records management system and budgeting software. This will also improve cybersecurity risk for our budget and finance management system. Furthermore, it will enhance our background and redundancy efforts. Our critical infrastructure, which includes our water system, electrical system, wastewater system, and roadways, have plagued us due to the aging systems and the lack of sufficient reinvestment into these systems. Efforts are ongoing in trying to maintain these systems at an acceptable level and require a taxing demand on staff to maintain. The FY25 budget funds efforts to make enhanced repairs to reoccurring trouble areas and the necessary funding for engineering assessments for these systems. The goal is to make critical improvements in FY25 while we collect the necessary information to develop a capital improvement plan for FY26. The city's fleet and equipment has reached a vulnerable stage. Many vehicles and pieces of equipment have reached and exceeded their lifespan. Staff has worked hard to develop a vehicle and equipment replacement plan. The FY25 budget funds the implementation of a vehicle and equipment replacement plan that will provide newer, more reliable vehicles and equipment and reduce maintenance and repair costs while keeping units in service. In addition, we'll fund new equipment such as hydrovac for public works, new radios for both police and fire departments, a bucket truck for the electrical department, police vehicles, and pickup trucks for public works. Our revenues. The property tax revenue, the 2024 assessed values are $260,129,556, with a net taxable value of $245,330,230. The net taxable value for 2023 was $218,028,835. This is an increase of $27,301,395 in the net taxable value. Our sales tax revenue, the revenues are coming in lower than the previous 2 years. The past 2 years surpassed the trend lines. It is unknown at this time what all contributed to the shortfall. Other cities experienced similar shortfalls. The projected total for the FY24 is at $830,000. We will continue to monitor and make any necessary adjustments. The tax rate, the FY25 proposed tax rate is .254591 cents, which is a reduction from the FY24 tax rate of .2654 cents. What this means is that a $300,000 home would see about a $30 decrease on their city taxes. The tax rate reduction is due to property valuations increasing and the addition of new property to the tax row. The FY25 proposed lower tax rate will generate revenues of $624,588, an increase of $45,942. The general fund. The general fund is the primary fund used by the city to track the majority of our revenues and expenditures, other than the enterprise funds, special purpose funds, or restricted funds. The fund supports governmental functions such as public works, public safety, streets, finance, municipal court, civic center, pool, and general government administration. Major revenue sources include property taxes, sales and use taxes, franchise taxes, fines, forfeitures, licenses, and permit fees, service charge, and interest income. The FY25 proposed revenues are $2,930,845. The proposed expenses are $2,922,525, an increase of $371,582. This budget is comprised of capital expenses for street and water system repairs. The enterprise funds include business-like governmental activities which are intended to be self-supporting and fund the operation, maintenance, and capital improvements related to the enterprise services. For the city of Weimar, the funds considered to be enterprise funds are the solid waste fund, the electrical fund, the water and wastewater fund. For solid waste rates will remain unchanged for FY '25. The proposed solid waste revenue fund is $775,590, a $771 decrease from FY '24. A more conservative approach was taken based on trends from the previous 3 years. The proposed expenses are $761,898, an increase of $4,528. The total revenue over expenses is $13,692. The proposed electrical revenue fund is $4,361,672, an increase of $21,822 from FY '24. The proposed expenses are $4,320,727, an $18,845 decrease from FY '24. The total revenue over expenses is $40,945. The water and sewer base rates are increasing by $1 per city ordinance. The proposed revenue fund is $1,369,650, an increase of $127,500 from FY '24. The proposed expenses are $1,333,912, an increase of $44,598. The total revenue over expenses is $35,738. The capital improvement plan, the FY '25 budget has three items for making necessary street and water system repairs. The primary street projects targeted are North St. Andrew Street and North Eagle Street, the projects that were supposed to be rebuilt from a grant that we recently had to cancel. This project is funded with $200,000. Any residual funds would be applied towards other targeted street failures. Water quality and SCADA is funded with $93,000 to complete recommended repairs from the Mercer report, and $50,000 funds general repairs for water, street, and wastewater. Our equipment fund, the equipment fund is established as a restricted fund to pay for vehicles and equipment. The purchases are paid for with the equipment fund, and the department pays the equipment fund back with a 3% interest, with funds budgeted to that department in the general fund over a period of generally 5 years. The Economic Development Corporation, EDC fund. The Weimar 4B Economic Development Corporation has been in existence for more than 24 years. Chapters 501, 502, and 505 of the Local Government Code outlines the characteristics of Type B EDCs, authorizing cities to adopt a sales tax to fund the corporation and define projects that are allowed to undertake. These funds are used to account for revenues allocated for restricted purposes or specified by law. Citizens approved the 4B sales tax on August 12, 2000 at a rate of 0.5%. The Weimar EDC provides revenues of $25,000 per month on average. The fiscal year 2025 budget meets all obligations toward debt service and all state and federal compliance requirements. In addition, it supports continual improvements to the service levels for the citizens and businesses of Weimar, Texas. This is the first budget the team has prepared during my tenure as city manager. We will strive for continual improvement to our process and budget document each year. I am grateful to the mayor and city council for their dedication and leadership to Weimar and their continued support of the staff and myself. As we continue to work through the many challenges, sometimes it is necessary to take one step back so that we can take 2 steps forward. It is reassuring during these times that we have the trust and confidence of the mayor and council. The staff has executed many positive changes in the past several months and will continue making Weimar a better place to live and creating a workplace culture that attracts employees. Finally, we need to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that went into preparing this budget. This budget process has illustrated the great team that we have here in Weimer. From the support of the mayor and council as we propose much-needed equipment, system upgrades, and infrastructure work to departments as they were commendable with their conservative budget requests and making necessary sacrifices so that other departments could receive critical requests. To the individual staff members, either contributing directly to the budget process or covering for other staff members as they worked on the budget process, each player is a valuable asset to the organization and the city of Weimer. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak during the, public hearing?
That was really good, Richard. Maybe put that in the newspaper and on the website.
It will also be in front of the final printed budget copy as well, so.
Well said. Question, all of these assessments, professional engineering firms, those sort of things, will ultimately manifest themselves in a capital improvements program that will be more, I guess, specified in the fiscal year 25-26 budget is what that's going to look like and how we're going to fund that in water order and those sorts of things. So all of this is preparing for that and moving forward.
Correct, yes, sir. Yeah. And we'll be developing that in the upcoming FY26 budget workshops and establishing that plan and establishing dates and timelines of stuff.
Given us.
And we'll also have, at that time, we'll also set up to where our financial advisor will come in and give us an idea of what our finances look like and what we can realistically do to plan for that and implement some of this stuff. So that'll be another piece of that as well. So
Starting it earlier.
we will be starting our budget process earlier, so.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Anyone else wish to speak during the public hearing? Okay, if not, Dolores, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 8:25.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the ordinance adopting fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Roberts and a second from Scardino. That's on the, coming back into open session. You guys are making the motion. And it's agenda item number 12, which is discussion and approval of ordinance adopting fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Sorry, just a hit.
Okay, so I have a motion from Roberts and a second from Scardino. It's open for additional discussion. Okay, I'm gonna go around the table. Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimous. Agenda item number 13, discussion and approval of setting the day for the fall citywide cleanup day. We're looking at October 26th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Motion to approve the setting of the day for the Fall Citywide Cleanup Day, October 26th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
That is a Saturday, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion. Tucker? I didn't hear who seconded it. Okay.
Becky.
Okay. And a second from Roberts. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Make sure we speak up first. Agenda item number 14, discussion and approval of updates to the capital improvements plan.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so these are the three items that we discussed in the presentation. So it was the $100,000 for the streets, and I can't find my paper here. So I'm trying to recall. David, can you help me out here? So it was $100,000 for the water and sewer fund. 50 of that to the water and 50 of that to the sewer. And then there's $50,000 for the, just a general flexible project. And then 200,000 for the streets, which is the target. The first target is the St. Andrews and Eagle Street, the north. Yeah, and that was going back to the grants, and the grant, that project included, because that ended up becoming, because of the delay, that ended up becoming a multi-million-dollar project. But that entire project included, they relocated the gas line, but then there was also water lines and sewer lines that ran down the middle of the road, and those were dated lines, so they needed to be replaced, so those were going to be replaced. The road was gonna be stripped down to the base, and then all the curbing was gonna be pulled up, and then all go back in with all new curbing, road base, service lines, as well as, the street. So, that was a multi-million-dollar project, but this funding for this, the 200,000, it's not going to do all of that. It's simply going to cover, going in and fixing the potholes correctly, and then putting 2 coats of chip and seal layer down to bring those 2 roads to an acceptable level for use, because it's worse than driving on a gravel road on those 2 streets right now, and they've been pleading with us to get them fixed. So those will be the 2 main streets that we start with, and then work our way down from there, so, and target some of the other areas. We're anticipating the 50,000, we're anticipating, based on our recent history, that we're going to have some other sewer failures, water failures, or whatever, so we're just trying to gear up and make sure that we've got proper funding for that. And then the $93,000 was basically for to take care of all the Mercer stuff, report stuff, but as mentioned earlier, we've already initiated those repairs. Now, when all that stuff comes due and gets completed, we're right in between 2 budgets here, so it's, so we're straddling that fence on that, but we'll work through that. Yes, sir, yes, sir. So, but that's the only projects that we're funding in our capital items this year.
Motion to approve the updates to the capital improvements plan.
Second.
I have a motion from Tucker, second from Ulrich. It's open for additional discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good audio. Agenda item number 15, discussion and approval of the 2024 capital improvements budget.
Well, we have that money in the budget to cover for the plan we just discussed, so.
So I make a motion, we approve the 2024-2025 capital improvements budget.
Second.
I have a motion from Scardino, second from Tucker. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 16, report on repair work for well 8.
Bear with me. Got so many papers over here, I'm trying to sort through them all.
I would imagine there was a lot of repairs, so there's a lot to say.
Yes, sir, that's it, yes. Okay, so this is an update on, well 8. So, basically, it just have a timeline, a breakdown of what occurred, what all transpired during that time. So on August 15, 2024, well 8 breaker tripped at water plant number 3. Staff began investigating and making attempts to reset breakers with no success. Staff contacted Weisinger Incorporated to check out the well. They arrived at well 8 and utilizing a megameter discovered that well 8 had a short in the wiring and motor system and would require surfacing the well motor to determine the exact condition. Staff at that time began bringing water plant number 1 online. On August 16, 2024, chlorination levels were high and staff made the decision to issue the boil water notice. A special council meeting was called to authorize a repair for well number 8. 2 bids were received, one from Weisinger for $115,684 and one for J&S for $25,972. Now I'll pause here, and council, if you recall, during that special meeting, we only had one budget or one proposal in that meeting. What we later discovered after the meeting was that we had the other proposal, but with our email system, stuff comes in late. So that email was received ahead of that deadline time. So in talking with Bo, our attorney, and taking his advice, is that a bid that we accept and consider or not? And he said yes. So with that, given the direction of council was to basically get the job done. The bid, I'll pick back up on my reading here. So the 2 bids received, one from Weisinger at $115,684 and one from J&S for $25,972. Council approved the city manager to make the necessary repairs on well 8 to get it back online. The quote from J&S was accepted to make the repairs. August 17, 2024, J&S began making the repairs on well number 8. J&S determined that the additional repairs were needed for the amount of $41,364. The J&S was authorized to proceed with the additional repairs needed. August 18, 2024, samples taken and submitted to Envirodyne Laboratories for analysis. On August 19, 2024, we received confirmation from Envirodyne that coliform was negative. So at this point, we were able to rescind boil water notice. Staff continued flushing and making adjustments to water distribution to fine-tune chlorine levels. August 20, 2024, TCEQ contacted staff in response to a complaint. TCEQ tested the chlorine levels and determined satisfactory results. August 21, 2024, repair work on well 8 was completed and submitted samples to laboratory for analysis. August 23, 2024, J&S advised the samples were clear and gave the go-ahead to place well 8 back online. Staff began bringing well 8 back online. That picks up where we discussed earlier that well 8 is up and running. However, at this time, we do not have it online because we're having a chlorine malfunction, which was separate from all this stuff, so it's a whole separate issue. But it is up and running, we just don't have it plugged in right now, so, which goes into why we're struggling with the discoloration of stuff, because we're having to use water plant 1 more than what we normally would. So it's a combination of factors that's contributing to all this, and we are working through them as fast as we can. But that's the latest on well 8 in the full report. But the original 2 quotes, again, to recap that, was at $115,684, and then the one that came in was at $25,972. But after they pulled it out of the ground and actually determined what all was wrong with it, that went up to $41,639. J&S is the actual company that originally installed that well, so they're a closer company to us. Both great companies. Weisinger, they was the company that originally come out and looked at it. Both companies have actually worked on that well. So they were both reputable companies, but Weisinger is further away, so their cost of stuff is just a bit higher. So, any questions?
As it turned out, both bids were timely, so
Yes.
it just didn't appear that way initially.
Right, yes.
And you went with the lower.
The lower bid, yeah.
Okay.
Agenda item number 17, re-ratification of collection contract with Colorado County Central Appraisal District for 2025.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we do this every year, so it's just time to renew that time of year to renew that with the county.
I would so move.
Second.
Have a motion from Ulrich. Who we have in the second?
Becky.
Roberts. With a second. Any additional discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Dolores, they need to sign this before they go, correct?
Yes, if
Okay.
they could.
Council, just make sure I'll pass it around now. Okay. Okay, agenda item number 18, discussion and action on TML Health Benefits Pool Office Ballot for Board of Trustees, TML Region 14.
So this is ever so often that council has to vote on these items, and they need to collectively come together and pick someone to vote. So we don't have a recommendation from staff, so
Where do we go?
The incumbent was Joe
Zimmerman, who's the mayor of Sugar Land,
Sugarland, yeah.
He sounds like a good one.
and then Frank Robertson's a council member, so
Oh.
Shannon Dolan.
Okay.
Do you know either one of these people, Mayor?
No.
Is there anything wrong with the incumbent?
I hadn't heard, I hadn't seen him on the news.
Yeah.
That's always a good sign.
Chief, have you seen him anywhere personally?
I would move we vote for Joe Zimmerman.
I
Second.
second that, oh.
I'm taking it this time.
Have a motion from Ulrich, a second from Tucker, for Joe Zimmerman.
I like his smile.
Maybe Becky.
That's a solid vote.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Agenda item number 19, discussion and approval of 2024-2025 EDC budget.
When we take this-
David, yes, can you pick up on this,
Yeah,
please?
Mayor, Council, we had an EDC meeting earlier this afternoon to go over this budget. The revenues, we projected revenues of $305,000. Expenses were projected to be $275,300, with a revenues over expenses of $29,700. Some of the highlights in the budget, the more expensive items would be, we set $45,000 for architect and engineer. That's for various projects throughout the city. Business promotion grants, again, just like last year, we allocated $24,000, and that is for the facade program that the EDC puts on every year. Transfer out to general fund, $50,000. That was for engineering, specifically for the street repairs. We wanted to assess some of the streets, what it would take to bring them up to standards. And then $100,000 for transfer out to water and sewer fund. That would be for water and sewer assessments, each at $50,000. And then transfer out to the capital improvements fund for $50,000. And some of those items you saw in the other budget that were, these are bringing them in from the EDC. So overall, we have revenues over expenses at $29,700. And everybody on the EDC board passed this budget, so they were all in favor of it.
Motion to approve 24-25 EDC budget.
Second.
I have a motion from Tucker, a second from Scardino. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 20, discussion and authorization for city manager to proceed with state fiscal year 2025 Texas Water Fund Water Loss Mitigation Project application.
Mayor, Council, so a couple of years ago, we applied for a grant to have a new well dug, and that also included automatic meter reading implementation or replacement. So initially with that grant, we did not score high, and it was not favorable for us, but long story short, another organization within the system pulled us down to their level, and you can explain this better, but we actually made us in a better position, and right now we have an opportunity to potentially get a grant that pays up to 90% of the cost. So consider now that to have a well dug that we need, we're looking at $5 million project. So it's definitely something worth pursuing, but we're at a point to where we've taken the first step, and we've approved up to $20,000 for that step and for the engineers to administer this. And now we're at that second point, and we actually need to do a deeper application submittal. So Brad is here with Bevco, and he's the part of the engineering team to speak to that. In addition to that, to the next step, we have to also present an updated water conservation plan, which is going to cost an additional $15,000 that council has not approved yet. And then the next agenda item, this was brought before council before, but they're kind of together, so I'll kind of explain that piece too, but then we can go back into it. But at the time this was originally brought up, it was presented to council, and they chose not to approve the bond council services. But the step that we're at now, we have to have that approved. So I'll set that aside for the time being and come back to Brad with Bevco if you want to add anything to this, or if the council has any questions, the engineer's here to speak more to that.
Thank you for your report. No, just kidding.
Yeah, great intro, and I know y'all had a long meeting, so try to keep the press as short and sweet as I can. But Mayor and members of council and diligent staff and community members, with your patience tonight. And but I know y'all have had a lot going on. It's budget time of year, so it's always a important part of the city. So as Mr. Whitten went into, this is looking at project to drill new water well 11. Started planning for this about 2 years ago, give or take, and then we moved on into early 2023 is when the last time I was here with council explaining this project. We put in for the PIF at that time through the Project Information Form for Water Development Board. Didn't score high on the first year. Roll forward to November of last year, and for those of you that went out to vote, thank you, because that's probably why we're standing here today, because it was all that money that was, this is most likely, this project was funded because of that vote that was taken for that water money that was on the November ballot of last year, if y'all recall. So that's probably what has been the biggest game changer on where this money is coming from for, like I said, water loss mitigation projects and the Texas Water Funds specifically. As I mentioned, Water Well 11, smart metering project, and associated improvements. As Mr. Whitten mentioned earlier in the meeting, the Strand report that was done in 2019, two of the goals in that project were to drill a new water well and to be able to blend water. That's for the water well portion of this project. We're accomplishing that. And then there's also, for many years past, and when I started working for the city, there also was a water line that connected the Brazier Street plant, which is kind of, I call it associated with water plant number 3, also connected to the ground storage tank at water plant 1. So there was a way to share water between the two plants. Somewhere along the way that became into a state of disrepair, the reliability of it was not. So this is bringing that pipeline, installing a new pipeline between Brazier Street, which is connected to water 8 and water plant 3, will now be, with this money, will be connected down to water plant number 1. So the issue that you had recently with water well number 8 went down, had to bring water plant 1 back online. We would have been able to share water, so to speak, now, that kind of thing. So we've got the issues now with the water quality where we'd be able to share water from one plant to the other before it hits your consumer, so to speak. So that's where the blending perspective comes in, so, to check off the list. We had talked as far as, there was a water well siting study that was approved back in January 23 that was done by a hydrogeologist that has worked extensively with the city for longer than I have, John Nelson. He prepared a report on as far as where this well would go. And basically, the general synopsis of that is that water in this general area, whether you're north of the tracks, or whether you're south of the tracks, or what have you, is generally the same in a big picture of life. Seems to be, as we all well know, water well 4 and 8 are better. Farther south we go, so for this particular project at this time, not saying it won't change between now and construction, but basically we're still planning on the south side because, once again, water's generally the same, so if we go to the north side, we have to spend money for a pipeline to get it back to water plant 1 or water plant 3, wherever we would drill that well. Or we'd have to, if we went on the north side, it might even be economically feasible to drill a new plant. So at this time, we're looking water well generally on this side of town, close to our existing infrastructure. Smart metering for all the meters in town, which would include the meter parts replacement as well. And then obviously we've got the pipeline between the two plants, and we'd have a pipeline between the water well and either existing raw water line infrastructure or between one of the water plant 1 or water plant 3. So that's what the project would consist of. As Mr. Whitten went in, we put in the short application. You're scored very favorable this time. So now we're getting into the long form application, which will be due in October, I think, at some point. So fast mover by all means. And the next step for council to take is that we've got to fill out that long form application. As part of that is a preliminary engineering feasibility report and a water conservation plan that is presently not been authorized by council. So that's what we're here to give you an update on the project and also ask approval to proceed on with the long form application, which would include the water conservation plan and preliminary engineering feasibility report. So, any questions on the project? What's next?
What would be a timeline?
So as far as the big picture timeline, Mr. Tucker, would be that, as I mentioned, the long form done is due here the next couple of months. Then they take it back to the Texas Water Development Board, which would sometime probably be December, early part of '25. And then you've got about I would say maybe a half to 3/4 year process of where they're coming in, they're evaluating your rate structure, your economics, ability to pay back the money, those kind of things. I know Mr. Whitten mentioned grant. This is, as he mentioned, up to 90%, but there's could be anything less than that. I think with the money we have available, and that would be favorable to Weimar as far as what a grant amount, but there is going to be some loan associated with this. So we'll look at, reevaluate the cost, the ability to pay back the loan, grant, all those kind of pictures come, and then you have a closing sometime in, I'd say, mid to maybe fallish of 2025, and you go build the project. You've got the environmental reports, you've got what's called the actual engineering feasibility report that's due then, and then you move on to design. So in the big picture of life, what I foresee, we'll be looking at construction-wise in 27 or into 28. So.
It's quite a process.
Turn the faucet on in 27.
27 to 28, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Well, then we need to move forward.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be 29 or 30.
In conjunction with the extension of the
Mhm.
Motion to authorize the city manager to proceed with the state fiscal year 2025 Texas Water Fund loss mitigation project application.
Second.
Have a motion from Tucker, a second from Scardino. Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good seeing you.
Thank you, Brad.
Agenda item number 21, discussion and award contract for bond council services for capital financing to Texas Water Development Board, TWDB, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
So Mayor, Council, basically this is the bond attorney that would handle our process and guide us through making sure when we go out for the bonds, that we're doing it according to the law in the proper way. The bill for this would not be submitted until the closing of that bond, and then the grant itself would cover the cost of these services and stuff. So there's really not much cost, that would be on the city, and that wouldn't be till down the road. So, but it is for that next step, we have to approve this, so.
Motion to award contract for bond council services and capital financing through the Texas Water Development Board, TWDB, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Second.
I have a motion from Tucker, second from Scardino. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item 22, discussion and approval of ordinance granting renewal of franchise agreement with Fayette Electric Cooperative Incorporated.
Yes, this is a contract, it's a 5-year contract. It actually come due in August, but I think both sides of the agreement were late in getting this pushed through. So basically, we're just asking to reapprove this. It's at the same percentage rate, but we're basically retroing it back to August at the beginning when it originally was set, and then again, it's for 5 years.
Bo's good with everything on this?
Yeah, it's the same contract, yes. So we're just changing the dates.
Okay.
Motion to approve the ordinance granting renewal of franchise agreement with Fayette Electric Cooperative Incorporated.
Second.
I have a motion from Tucker, a second from Roberts. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 23, presentation and discussion from Texas Film Corridor. I asked them to wait till next month because we had such a huge agenda, and obviously we're here kind of late, so their presentation normally takes about 15 or 20 minutes. So they were in agreement, so we'll put them back on next month. And it's great news from them, so. Okay, agenda item number 24, per my city manager, we are to pass that, correct?
Correct, pull it, yes.
Okay. Agenda item number 25, future agenda items. Does anyone have anything they want to put?
Yes, I do. I want to put discussion and possible action on ordinance update regarding the burning of non-wood products within the city limits. If we can, or if there's another way of,
Or you need another council member to second that other.
Anyone else? Okay, go to agenda item number 27, discussion and action on items from executive session. Anyone have anything? Okay, go to agenda item number 28, announcements.
Mayor, Council, so we want to remind you of the new Rock the Block that's coming up from the Chamber, September 27th from 5:30 to 9:30. The National Night Out will be Tuesday, October 1st from 5 to 8:30 at the City Pavilion. And then October, that's going to be our TML Conference, so October 9th through 11th at the George Brown Convention Center. And because of that, we're moving the October council meeting to October 17th.
Richard, we have a special council meeting coming up Friday the 20th.
Yes.
At noon?
At noon, yes.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn at 8:55.